Hey there YouTube, this is sjm4306 back with another video, and this time I'm going to be showing you guys the inside of this guy. And this is one of these, I think, was it a Coleco tabletop arcade or something like that? Here it says Midway. I believe they're the rights holder for Pacman. But yeah, you can see, yeah, it was made by Coleco. I was right. Yay! So basically, this was a console that was very generously sent to me by my buddy Agent Antz. And I'll link the unboxing video where he sent me a whole huge mailbox full of all these goodies. And I've been trying to go through them one by one, and I'll be putting up videos on all of them eventually. But I want to start with this guy because this was the one that I was most excited about. And yeah, you can see here, it fully works. Yeah. But I wanted to open this guy up and show you guys exactly what's on the inside of it. So I guess we'll just get right into it. Remove this. And you can see it uses what are these C-cell batteries. But good thing is they last forever. That's very musical. Anyway, so yeah, you can see when you open this, there's one screw here. Let's see, 2 in the back under the hood, and then 2 on here. And there is a little trick to getting into this. I'll show you a little pitfall once we get these 4 off, or 5 rather. And these screws are angled, so just take your time and get them out. Okay, once you get these 5 screws out on the bottom, you'll think, oh yeah, great, it's gonna open. But there's something holding it, and it's just stuck. And if you pry it, you could actually damage something. So, very sneaky what they did. Underneath this front bezel, there's actually 2 hidden screws, 1 in each corner. You can just carefully lift the bezel and unscrew it. I wouldn't rip off the entire bezel itself. Otherwise, you will have to re-screw that down. And these screws are actually shorter than the other ones, so I would keep them separate. And the same with this guy, too. Might help if you have tweezers or something, you can very carefully just get in underneath just a tiny bit to get access to those screws. Okay, with those out of the way, now the entire front shroud comes off completely. You can see there are little cutouts in there, and those go into tabs in the actual bottom shell itself. And that's kind of what was holding the top on. Without removing these 2 screws and removing that, you can't actually pull these tabs through. So once you have that done, now it opens effortlessly. And here you can see the speaker itself. It's actually really interesting. You can slide this off, and you can see all it is a little piezo speaker, similar to what you'd find in like those singing candles or those birthday cards that you open. It plays like happy birthday in that shrill, ear murdering sound. But anyway, yeah, you can see all this is it's like some heat formed very thin mylar like plastic that just rests up against the back of it and acts as a amplifying speaker cone, and that's why the sound is very loud for this unit. But yeah, that just slides on and off, and there are little tabs that click in place. Very cool design on that. I like that. And it's interesting that it looks like it's firing downwards into the battery bay, and then the backside's pressed up. Very interesting design. I've never seen anything like that in anything I've taken apart. But anyway, yeah, you can see here is the actual circuit board for the unit. We'd see a big chip here. It's a quad flat pack, and it's labeled HD38820A28, and then 1M45, probably the manufacturing like date code and factory code. But anyway, yeah, you can see that's pretty much the entire brain of this unit, and you can see all the traces. We have the display portion going up towards here, and it's reading the inputs down here. One interesting thing is the joysticks are actually like heat melted, heat staked onto the board here. Well, actually, no, that's not the... That's actually a... Here, let me show you guys. Unscrew 3 screws, and I'll show you exactly what's going on. It'll make sense on the other side. Okay, so we can just very carefully flip this over not to break any of the wires, and we'll just kind of set it inside. So yeah, the joysticks are floating. This is actually sort of the, I guess what you consider a gate. Similar to how arcade joysticks have a piece of plastic inside that restricts the movement. It's a restrictor basically, so that you can only press in certain directions. But anyway, yeah, you can see there are big honking, well, there's something in there, big honking springs in here that the board, when it's screwed in, it presses in, and that actually applies the return force, so that when you press in one direction, it'll want to go back to center. And there are screws in here, so you can actually remove the ball top, and I guess if you wanted to 3D print or replace that with a different shape if you wanted. And you can see all these front plates are... The molds must be the same for all of the games that they released. They just have holes that are covered up for the games. So, for instance, this game, Pacman, does not require these 2 buttons. So it's just covered up by the bezel here. And so each game will have their own like bezel and artwork, but the actual shell plastics are the same. They're just, you know, injected with different colored plastics. And you can see the screen guard for the VFD is just tabbed in place and then screwed with 2 screws on the top, so you can easily remove that. And this guy probably will need a little bit of cleaning. It is a little dirty. You can see it's sort of this opaque purplish color that like VCRs generally had in front of their VFDs as well. What is most interesting to me though is the display, which is a VFD, and it has this gel color filter glued in on it. And I'm just going to insert the batteries. Now, when you're operating this isn't high voltage, not much high voltage. VFDs usually operate... That was a fail. VFDs usually operate at around anywhere from like 50 to 70 volts, depending on like what generation of technology it uses. So it's not very high voltage, but you can see there's a switching transformer down here that'll generate. So this is probably about like 60 or 70 volts. So it won't hurt if you touch it, but you probably shouldn't. But anyway, you can turn this on. You can see it starts glowing. The actual color... So yeah, you can see you could see if it were silent, the actual color of the VFD is kind of greenish. It's this color up here, which looks blue on camera, but it's definitely like an eerie aqua greenish color. There is a yellow color filter in that area, so it does kind of tilt it more towards green. But then we also get in down here, everything glows kind of red because it has a red color filter. And then they overlap them. So in between the space in between here, there's a bit of the yellow filter and a bit of the red filter, which apparently gives like a bluer color, which is actually pretty interesting. It's like bluish white. But yeah, you can see all they're doing is they're using, you know, these are custom VFD modules. All the segments are custom shapes. So that would have been interesting when this was produced to find out how much that cost them to get an LCD, or, well, not an LCD, a glass manufacturer to custom make that for them. That would be interesting. But yeah, you could see they just have, you know, standard sort of layout VFDs with special shaped characters and just stuck colored gel filters over them. That's pretty cool. Some of the buttons are kind of hard to press, and there's actually, yeah, some corrosion likely underneath the pin. If I were to lift this up just a tiny bit, you could see it's basically a metal leaf spring, and underneath is a circular pad that's soldered, and you can see this pretty easily down here. They're basically, for every button, there are 3 pads. There's a circular center portion, and then the 2 outer pads go towards the metal strip. So when you press the button, you're actually pressing this ground to the center pin, and that's how it detects that. Over time, that gets a little corrosion or oxidize. So what I'm probably going to do is spray some contact cleaner, put a paper towel around it to make sure it doesn't get everywhere, and just spray it in, and then work this button until all the buttons work perfectly. But yeah, you can see generally how that works. And if you have a broken button, you probably could cut some tin and shape it. These are actually curved a little bit like that, so that when you press it, they want to spring up and return to their original shape. Other than that, we can see some like transistors and whatnot. There probably is like a 5-volt regulator chip. Maybe that's this guy here. Because it does run off 6 batteries, that's about 6 volts, and it probably steps that down to 5 volts for the CMOS logic. And as I said, this is the high voltage switching supply, so this will probably generate 60, 70 volts, if that. Other than that, yeah, there's a lot of solder joints, and it's interesting to see some bodges in there. Someone forgot to put in a resistor, or they tested it and something wasn't stable, so they had to actually botch some resistors in there to make sure that it worked as desired. Yeah, other than that, another thing to check is if yours isn't working is this power switch could be a little crusty as well, so spraying some you can just switch it over and spray some contact, of course with your batteries out. Spray some contact cleaner or isopropyl alcohol and just work that back and forth. And there's this little guard here too. It's a little piece of plastic they cut out and shaped that'll just try to keep dust out of there. But yeah, as you can see, this is actually pretty simple. This is absolutely beautiful. I have seen people turn these into mini arcades, which is a neat idea. They'll stick like an actual modern Raspberry Pi and LCD in there. I don't like the idea of taking an original unit. I mean, if it's broken, I guess that's fine and you can't fix it. But if you took an original working unit and scrapped all the electronics just to put that, that's sort of a shame. But I have seen on Thingiverse, someone actually 3D printed. They modeled this entire shell and made it so that you could 3D print a replica one-to-one of just the plastics to use for that. So that's awesome. I can link that down below. Hopefully I can find the link for that. But yeah, overall, I absolutely love these systems. I've always wanted one of these, but they're pretty expensive nowadays. I think I was looking for, was it Frogger? And that was the cheapest one of these Colecos. I guess they were more common or something. But even those were like easily, on the cheap end was like $80 to $120, something like that. So yeah, I couldn't really afford that. But yeah, thank you so much, Agent Antz, for sending this guy into me. So what I'm going to do now is clean all these contacts, get all the buttons working reliably, put this all back together, and I'm going to have me a Pacman gaming session. So yeah, anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you have one of these and you always wanted to know how to get inside, because these 2 hidden screws are not obvious. First time I took this apart, I actually had to look up how to open it myself. So yeah, hopefully this gives you guys an idea of what's inside and how to open it and clean it. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.